Okay, the Jazz played the Indiana Pacers in Salt Lake tonight, and close game, great game to watch. Pacers squeak out a win in the end, and let's talk about it.
Jazz Smack, your source for information and analysis about the Utah Jazz and NBA basketball. Jazz Smack is a community for passionate Utah Jazz NBA fans.
So the Jazz did play a good game tonight, and for a while there, I was kind of worried. I thought they were actually going to win the game. But fortunately, Hardy put in Jordan Clarkson and Keontae to close out the game, and they were able to squeak out a loss, which is unlike most of the fans in the arena. I'm certainly still rooting for losses, so I think this is a good thing. There are really some good performances tonight from the Jazz perspective. If we take a look at the box score really quick, Lowry had a decent game, shot the ball decently. John Collins played another great game. Walker played another good game. And really the only real struggles that we saw tonight, tremendous struggles. Keontae struggled from the field yet again, although to his credit, he did have 8 rebounds, 11 assists, even though he did commit also 6 turnovers. But other than that, Isaiah played another really good game. It's really positive. Unfortunately, Collin got injured really early in that game, and he really turned over that ankle. And I think he's going to be out a few games because, he completely rolled it over. And that's going to be a difficult thing to immediately return from, especially for somebody who is so dependent on speed. So I would expect him to miss a couple of games. But any thoughts on tonight's game?
You know what I keep thinking? The more we see Isaiah Collier, the more he looks like an NBA player, doesn't he? I mean, he's impressive. I mean, his decision-making, he just looks confident going up the court now, which is what I love about it. Like all the things we liked before, he just seems confident now. He goes out there, it looks like he knows he belongs now. And not only belongs as a rotation player, and look, that's all he's proved to be right now as a rotation player, but he looks like he's a starting level player, absent the shooting. But the shooting's improving. So, I really like that. We both were really concerned for a while that they were going to win this game. Whoa, Hardy, come on, man. We got to lose this game. Charlotte lost tonight, so they're right on our heels. Unfortunately, Washington beat Charlotte. Figure that out. But it was good. Let me see if there's anything that. So it was all good. I gotta say, I'm a little worried that Lauri's not getting more shots. He did hit decent from 3-point land today, but man, for whatever reason, he's not getting enough shots. I mean, you got to say that the guy's still our star player, or at least our star offensive player. We got to get him shots. So that bugged me a little bit. Bryce didn't get a ton of minutes, but I think my gut is that's trying to showcase Jordan Clarkson. And honestly, if you need to do that for a week, do that for a week, right? The thing on Collin, not only the fact that he's my favorite player on the team, if we're trying to trade him, little bit of a warning sign, right? I mean, I think teams are going to want to see that he's not going to be out an extended period of time if they're trying to get him for this season. So I hope for our sake and his, because I like the kid, I hope that he's not, that it's just a sprained ankle in a couple of games he's back. I enjoy watching him play, but also I think Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern is a trade deadline. So we need to make sure that Collin can play, because if he can't, for a while, I think it's going to hurt his tradability. And then, Keontae's Keontae. What can you say? He gunned up a 3-pointer at the end, which was like a typical Keontae. Let me be the star. Let me take the last shot, and he bricked it. But we know that. Oh, I saw our friend Pat Siakam do a really nice spin move that Locke said never happens in the NBA and scored easily down low. So I kind of enjoyed that whenever somebody does something that Locke thinks doesn't happen. Also, Locke said that you never trade top 10 players, and that happened this weekend too. Yeah. So wrong.
Yeah, well, that dude is just, for somebody who's been in the NBA this long and to be so ill-informed and lack of understanding of the game of basketball is just absolutely shocking. But yeah, that move by Siakam, which he did on Filipowski, I mean, that was a really nice spin move. I mean, he just absolutely destroyed Filipowski on that move. I mean, just crushed him. I mean, that was awesome move. So yeah, but that's obviously, that's the strength of Siakam's game. His percentages from three have never been terrific, but boy, that guy's a really good mid-range shooter, and around the basket he's really good. So that was an awesome move. But yeah, Collier seems to be, when he's getting into the lane now, he seems to be more selective when he's choosing to go. But I mean, he got the ball pitched out to him at the 3-point line, and he could have easily taken that three, and he decided to just, I mean, he went full steam ahead to the paint, even though there's a big guy there. But I mean, that was awesome to see that he didn't settle for the three. He just took the ball and he just went straight towards the basket. And I think that he needs to continue to get into the paint. I think any point guard, I want to see them get in the paint. So hopefully that mentality continues. He just needs to be a bit selective. I mean, obviously Colin is still trying to work on this as well. His selectiveness in attacking people in the paint. I mean, Colin has also gotten better at that. But yeah, I mean, Collier's been awesome. I mean, he's been absolutely great.
Yeah. He's. I made this comment, and I'm kind of regretting it now. And this is not a cut on Flip, because I think we got a steal with Flip in the second round, right? I think we got a huge steal. I think he's got massive upside. But I was like, man, I wish we would have taken Flip at the end of the first round instead of Collier. It's not looking that way right now. I mean, Collier is, I bet there's a lot of teams like, man, why do we pass up on that guy? Now, he's still got to work on his shot in the offseason. Let's face it.
Yeah.
To be that guy, he's got to be able to hit his shot. But, man, the rest is good. The rest is good. And how old is he now? 19, 20? I mean, is not, he's a young kid still.
Yeah. His second year out of high school. I mean, to have 10 assists and 2 turnovers, that's an incredibly impressive game. It's just, and he's been just racking up the assists game after game now since he's been getting time. And again tonight, I mean, he plays 32 minutes. But going back to Lowry, Lowry is fifth in field goal attempts on the team. Like, that's just that's not right. That can't happen. And obviously the problem, I mean, yeah, having Clarkson shoot 17 shots, considering the trade deadline is Thursday, is all good. The real problem is still Keontae shooting horrific percentages and taking a lot of shots, and and nothing is really changing in that front, and he's still playing poor defense too. So those are the shot attempts that I think are a bit troubling. Or Keontae's shot attempts are still really high, and it's not justified at this point.
Yeah, and 31 minutes. It'd be interesting. What if Colin played? Would Keontae get more minutes? Because that was the trend. Even though he went to the bench, he was still getting more minutes, which are just like head scratcher. Like, okay, play hard and pass and earn your minutes. Well, you earn your minutes, pal. Like, earn it. We all want you to earn it, but earn it. But we'll see. We've talked about if he's part of a trade, it's not the end of the world. One final. The Collier too. Like, Collier had this beautiful steal in the first quarter, like where it was about mid-court. He went hard down. Halliburton fouled him on the way down too. He should have got a foul called. But boy, like, great instincts. You understand why this guy was a number 1 rated high school player, right?
Yeah.
He's got some, like, those. You play some of those guys sometimes, and they just seem to have it, and you can't teach it. Collier's got it. I don't know why he's not a better shooter, but he's got it.
Yeah.
But I was also going to say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he got stuck in a really tough situation at USC with Bronny James, that whole mess. I mean, obviously he would have been much better off elsewhere than being in that mess for his 1 year of college. He just would have been better off elsewhere. But I mean, who knows? I don't know his commitment process. He may have not even known Brody was going to commit. I don't know who committed first or if he even knew. I mean, but that was just a disaster. So he's in a much better place now than that mess.
Yeah. And I was going to say this, like my final game comment about Halliburton. He's got the ugliest 3-point shot that goes in. I keep waiting for him to start missing season after season, but he's shooting 37% for the three-point line this year and shoots a lot. So I don't really get it, but I got to give him credit. He's effective. So more power to him. But we've all played with those guys where their motion, their technique is really ugly, but he's one that's actually LaMelo Ball is that way too. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Really ugly shot, but it goes in.
Yeah, I think LaMelo's. Well, I don't think LaMelo's percentages are particularly good. I haven't looked at it, but I think that overall Halliburton's certainly a better shooter than LaMelo. But LaMelo's shot selection is brutally bad, and that certainly is a major factor in his percentages.
Yeah. So that's all I got of the game.
All right. Well, so back to the NBA trades, and obviously the Jazz were involved in some trades this week where they acquired an additional 3 second-round picks, which is actually, as I think that this is exactly what the Jazz should be doing, taking on salary and taking on extra draft choices by helping to facilitate these trades. So I think that's perfect. I think this is what the Jazz should do, and hopefully there's other things coming in the next couple of days, but we'll see. I would assume that something else will happen where the Jazz were involved. I'd be shocked, very surprised if nothing else, including the Jazz, happens before the Thursday trade deadline.
Yeah, I think the Jazz, they're keeping Tucker to try to take back some salary. So you figure they may be a facilitator, pick up another second, right? We'll see. So I would be happy with that. Obviously, we have a group of players that are being marketed. One in particular we really want traded. Well, one veteran and one young guy we want traded, but probably the veteran gets more likely to be traded. But the comment I was making to you prior to when we started is that if the market for Luka and De'Aaron Fox is what we saw in those trades, then we have to really think, do we give away John Collins for that? In assuming that John Collins that's playing right now is the John Collins we're going to have in the future. So this is not a 1-year anomaly, that this is the new John Collins. Because if this is the new John Collins, do you give him away for anything less than a first-round pick? Are you willing? And if that's what the market is right now, would you do that trade? Like if what you got back was less than a first-round pick?
No, I'm not going to trade him for seconds. He's too good. And I would trade him for a prospect, for a young prospect. I would do that, but it would have to be the right spot. I'm not going to trade him for Hood Schifino. Hood Schifino, I'm going to show the statistics for that guy. I don't know anything about Hood Schifino. I never saw him play at Indiana. I don't know anything about him. So he's been in the NBA now. This is his second year. I think he was the pick after Keontae in the first round. Yeah, so I don't know anything about that guy, and I don't want to disparage him in any way. But simply, I would need to know something more about the prospect that John Collins were traded for if I were to trade him for a prospect. Other than that, yeah, I need a first-round pick. I'm not going to trade him I'm not going to give him away like Atlanta did. I mean, he's playing way too good for that. I mean, he's shown himself to be. I mean, he's shooting in the mid-40s from three this year. I mean, my gosh, the guy's one of the best three-point shooting big men in the league right now. So, And aside from that, he's the only guy the Jazz have that really has offensive skills in the paint too. And you couple those two things together, like, yeah, it would be idiotic for the Jazz to just cut him loose for nothing. That would be dumb.
Yeah, and they have the second worst record in the league, right? So we know we can do that by sitting players, and I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, and it's not fair to the players. But the reality is this is a business. So if we have to sit players and let one play one game and then another play another game, but not give them away for nothing, I think we have to do that. I mean, he rebounds well. He's a great finisher. His 3-point percentage is top 10 in the NBA. Top 10 in the NBA. Blocks some shots because he's got amazing hops. So, and a fantastic character guy. Let's face it. I mean, John Collins is a great guy to have on your team. You see him like when he goes to Sacramento and talking to Herder, and I know Herder's gone now. He's a just liked guy. I mean, he likes his teammates. He's very boosts them. So he's not a guy I want to give away. Like Colin and him are not the guys who want to give away. Clarkson, I have a different view.
Yeah, Clarkson's clearly the guy that needs to go first and foremost.
Yeah,
and then after that, quite frankly. You know who I would choose number 2 is the guy. I mean, but I know the fans are just going to disagree because he seems to be one of the fan favorites. But I would move on from him if I were able to and get something in return. But yeah, Clarkson's the guy that needs to go. That guy just needs to be elsewhere. It would be better for Jordan if he were elsewhere. It'd be better for the Jazz if he were elsewhere. It would be better for all parties involved if he were elsewhere. And he could actually go play for something meaningful instead of just missing time here and playing sporadically. It just doesn't make any sense for either party.
Yeah, agreed. I honestly think the most likely to be traded are Svi and Clarkson, just because I think that Ainge won't give away Sexton and Collins. So I don't think he'll give it away. And even though this has been like one of the most exciting trade seasons I've ever seen with the trades that have gone, they just haven't gone for good value. I mean, we're all still dumbfounded with the Luka one. Even if you think that Luka is going to be hurt the rest of his career and he's a bum, blah, 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 you could have got a king's ransom for Luka if you would have marketed him. The Jazz would have given him a king ransom. The Jazz, So, I am just dumbfounded with that trade still. For a guy who's until last season, where he played most of the season, is always hurt. Always hurt. That's the guy you trade him for. So
I mean, let's face it. There are several teams with a large number of assets that would have given them away. Pretty much all their assets to get that guy. Jazz would have done it. Yeah. I think San Antonio probably would have done it.
Absolutely.
I think OKC may have done it.
Absolutely. Could you imagine and next to like SGA?
Yeah, exactly. And those guys, all those teams have a ton of draft picks, and they could have had those picks. And instead, they get a broken Anthony Davis. Who's moving towards the tail end of his career. I mean, the guy's always injured, always. And one first round pick, they didn't even get the other first round pick from the Lakers that was available. I mean, it's almost it just seems so fishy the way that it's set up. Like that I mean, any reasonable person looks at this and says that this is not reasonable. It's just not. It's fundamentally flawed. I mean, it's just a joke. I mean, it's almost like the league wants the Lakers to have one of the biggest draws in the NBA because LeBron's on his last legs. And the whole thing stinks. It really does.
Yeah, if Dallas, and I'm not going to do like a conspiracy theory. I mean, it sounds like you're more in that camp. That doesn't happen.
I don't know, but from I mean, look at all the comments and stuff. Yeah. I mean, people are talking about it. So, like, it's so egregious that people actually think that. whether that's true or not. I mean, it's the worst NBA, it's the most lopsided NBA trade that I can ever recall in NBA history. It's that bad.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. Like, you and I have the same comment is it's not only that they could have got a better deal, even if they were in love with AD, and look, when AD plays, he's great. Even if they're in love with AD, you didn't get the second draft pick. Like, how is that possible that you trade Luka Doncic and you don't get the second draft pick? I am dumbfounded with that trade. I mean, it is. But here's the thing. Here's another thing I want to talk about that trade on. You know how we judge which picks are valuable and not? This tells you how what you're really trying to do is get quality, but I'm more a quantity guy with first round unprotected picks. Why? You never know. We were like so gung ho about that 2027 Lakers pick, right? That was like, other than what was the one we picked up? The Phoenix 2031 now in our own picks. We're saying like, okay, that's the most valuable now. The one we traded 3 for 1 or 1 for 3. We are saying that Lakers pick, right? Besides our own. Now, you say, okay, that Lakers pick's not valuable anymore. But what if, like, LeBron's retiring? What if Luka's hurt that year? Right? Then that pick is like highly valuable again. You just have no idea. What you really want is unprotected. Like, San Antonio thought they had this great picks with the Atlanta picks. Then Atlanta started playing well this year. Then a few of their players got injured. Now it looks like pretty good again, right? So what you just need is like shots on goal. Yeah. And some of them are going to hit, some are going to miss entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to accumulate assets. And this is the thing about that trade with Phoenix that the Jazz did. I mean, we don't know how that's going to turn out. Giving away 3 picks, even though almost as certainly those 3 picks, because of, the way the deal was structured, and it's the worst of the Jazz picks each season, right. It's still 3 first-round picks for 1 first-round pick. Yep. 1 first-round pick where you have no idea where it's going to end up. And, I mean, still, you can still pick up quality guys in the. Isaiah I mean, there's Collier. All sorts of guys who've been picked in the mid, like Giannis, and like just countless instances of this. So you just got to accumulate picks. So I'm not sure that trade with Phoenix is going to work out or not. I don't think I would have done it.
I don't think I would have either. I'm with you. Look, what if that first round pick for Phoenix turns out to be at the end of the first round? Players want to play in Phoenix, right? It's a warm weather place. So if they stink, Booker's still going to be playing. He's still a relative, he's still going to be, I don't know, I did it. He's like early 30s or something like that. So he's still going to be there. Guys are going to want to play with Booker. What if it ends up in the end of the first round and you gave away 3 end of the first round picks for 1?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm with you. I honestly, I would not have, I don't think I would have made that trade. Now, if it turns out to be number 1 pick, it was a good trade, but it's all hindsight. Like, to me, it's, you're trying to get what you think are going to be the good ones, but I'd rather have more shots on goal because you just never know. Yeah. You just never know with these picks. So we'll see. Like I think we were more like convinced that the Cleveland picks were going to be bad, right? That Minnesota, now it looks Minnesota's are going to be bad. But what if there's a couple of injuries at Cleveland? Well, suddenly the Cleveland picks look really good again, right? You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know. And also another factor in this whole thing, you and I have been complaining about this incentivized losing thing, and the NBA needs to redo its whole system of, what if they were to do that? Yeah. I mean, what if they were to do that? I mean, it completely changes complexion. Then you want those other 3 picks, certainly. So, there are just so many things that can happen, especially in this amount of time. The Jazz are rolling the dice on that. The Jazz did roll the dice on that one. And the more picks you get, especially the first-round picks, the better off you are. I'm happy to see that the Jazz pick up 3 extra second-round picks this week. And I think that's terrific, but they still, if they can acquire more firsts, I think that that's a benefit to the team moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think what they're doing with getting the second round pick is what they should have been doing the last 2 years. That's what Oklahoma City did, is just try to collect anything, right? And take in salary, dump it in. So Ainge is finally doing that. So I give him credit. We've picked up some second round picks, probably not valuable, but we never know. And we could certainly package 5 of them together and get something back, right? So all of that is great. But I clearly we want some first. We want some unprotected first. May even be with a great team, but great teams could be bad one year. So let's just see if we can get more of them, but not give away. If we can't get a good deal other than Clarkson, unless we can't get a good deal, don't pull the trigger, because we got 2 guys that are very good basketball players and very good character guys and very good hustle guys. And if the market is not conducive right now, wait till the summer and try again.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. So with that, do you so these are Hood Schifino's numbers for the first 2 years, 23 and 24 and 24, 25. So look, he's played a total of 23 games. He played 21 games in his rookie season at 5 minutes a game, and he's played 2 games so far this season at 7 minutes a game. He's basically not played at all so far since being drafted. I mean, this is completely unknown. It's like the only evaluation that you could actually do on this guy, realistically, is to go back and look at his Indiana games and evaluate him based on that. Because I think he played all 32 games in Indiana for the University of Indiana. So It's like, this is an unknown. We got this guy. I don't know anything about this guy. I haven't had time to watch a ton of college basketball, and I don't think I ever saw this guy play while he was in college. And I'll just be honest. And I might actually go back and try and find some Indiana game film. But I would assume presuming he's healthy, I would assume the Jazz will give him a shot and actually give him some time. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't we actually see him play some minutes, considering where they are?
Yeah, and you and I are the same way. I just heard, I don't know who it was, maybe Leaf Talene Talay that was filling in for David Locke, said, he was just kind of a throw-in, or maybe that was somebody else saying no one's even it was the whole second round picks. That was not even any value. But, in my mind, we got a young guy who's 6'6", that's played relatively well in the G League, reportedly, although I didn't look at his stats either. Let's see what he can do. If you're on the Lakers and you're backing up LeBron, who dominates the game, it's hard to get minutes. So, let's see what the kid can do. Most likely it's a 0, but to me, those are the type of shots you're looking for. Yeah, let's take some of those young guys back and see if we can find a nugget in there. So I actually am. Do I think he's going to turn into something? Probably not, because after 2 years, if you're not getting NBA minutes, probably not a good sign. But I'm encouraged because he has size and has some skill, allegedly. And let's see what the kid can do.
Yeah, if he ends up playing in the G League for the Stars, I'm definitely going to try and watch some of his games. Obviously Cody is there as well, so those games actually may become more interesting with this move. But we'll see what happens before the trade deadline. Other things may be coming our way. Like I previously said, I'd be shocked if the Jazz didn't do something further, or if they weren't involved in some sort of deal somehow. It would surprise me immensely if something else doesn't happen before the Thursday deadline.
Yeah, I've been Googling NBA trade rumors multiple times a day to see if anything comes up, because now this is the fun week that it happens, and hopefully this weekend wasn't it, and we're not going to get anything this week. But there's multiple Laker fans still out there saying now's the time to go get Walker Kessler.
Yeah, that's
what are you guys smoking? There's no way we're going to give for one first round pick for Walker Kessler. We will
Yeah,
probably
well,
would
I
have done
mean,
it for the two.
I see these stupid stories. I pull up the browser and it opens up on MSN, and it's like the Lakers are pursuing Walker Kessler. Like the Lakers have nothing to give for Walker Kessler, absolutely nothing. I
Unless
mean,
it's
the
Luka.
Jazz are not going to take Dalton Connect in that first round pick for Walker. There's no way they do that. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's what
just
somebody wrote today.
it's a
There's no
typical.
chance.
I mean, the Lakers fans as a whole are absolutely the most delusional fan base in the NBA because they're always doing this. Like you can just see all these rumors and it's just ridiculous. Obviously, the Laker fan base is the largest fan base in the NBA, but it's a largely delusional fan base because all these stories are always written about for them to get their fan base excited because they get a lot of clicks and blah blah blah, but it's just absurd.
Yeah. Yeah. What about these other trades you wanted to talk about?
Well, so, I mean, I think we kind of went over the Luka one where we just don't like it, but you wanted to mention something about when I made the previous video about the first that Sacramento got in that deal for Fox. I did not know that one of them was going to turn into 2 second-round picks. So that only getting 2 firsts for Fox, I mean, that is a definite problem. I mean, that's not enough. So I probably would not have moved on from him at this point in time if that's all that I could get for him. I mean, it's shocking that that's all you could get for him because I would think, in all honesty, that I would be surprised if like another team out there, considering how good he is, would not offer more. I mean, if that guy were in Houston, let's say, his hometown, I think that makes Houston a whole lot. I mean, I don't mind Fred VanVleet, and I know they have the Kentucky kid on the roster they just drafted, but man, I mean, De'Aaron Fox is still young. I mean, putting him on that roster in place of VanVleet, boy, that would be good, really good. So I'm surprised they didn't. I'm surprised this is the best deal they could come up with. 2 firsts.
Yeah. I've heard people say that because he said he wanted to go to San Antonio, no one else is interested. I don't buy that at all because Cleveland stepped in, took Mitchell, right? Convinced him to stay. They took a gamble on it because they look, we need a star in Cleveland, and he stayed. So another team could have and would have done exactly the same thing. What I wonder about it, though, is are we resetting draft picks to the craziness that we've had with Mikal Bridges and Donovan and Rudy? You know, like, are we changing where Paul George, when he went to LA Clippers, that was just like a massive, not only Shea, but the number of picks that went? Are we kind of resetting to normal? Because this is new normal. Then, okay, that's fine. The other thing I'll say about that, and I also didn't know they were protected. Like, shame on me, because you can just go and look at the picks that some team has and you can tell what it is. And I didn't look. I just looked at, oh, these are the picks coming. And I'm like, oh, Charlotte's could be the number 1 pick. That's not bad at all. And it's this season. And that's a guarantee. So that's not bad. The part, so you're not bullish on this player, but hear me out on this analysis. Levine was a negative contract until this year. Maybe still a negative contract. There's a lot of teams that would not take Levine, right? There's a lot of teams that wouldn't trade for him because they've been trying to trade him all year. This year, putting that aside, this year, I think Levine has been better than Fox. Not only better than Fox, I think he's been substantially better than Fox. I want to show the stats of Fox and to Sexton and some of these other players like Tyler Hero, because I don't think Fox has been good this year. So if you base it on 1 year and you say, look, I got Levine back plus 2 first rounds plus 6 second rounds, it doesn't look as bad if you say Levine is a better player than Fox. Here's the problem with that, though. Even if you buy that as true, here's the problem with that. Levine's got this massive contract. It's kind of the John Collins thing. He was perceived as a negative contract, which means his stock was very low, even though he's played fantastic this year. So you should be able to get him for way under value. And then the other thing is he's been hurt until this year. So you're taking this big risk with taking this guy in. So, you could argue okay, I got a better player out of it, but you can't discount all those other things, right? You can't discount the fact that he barely played the last 4 years. You can't discount the fact that his contract was really high. You can't discount the fact that they basically were trying to give him away, including this year, right? According to reports, they've been trying to trade him all this year, and they didn't have buyers like Golden State. Is Golden State interested? No, they're not interested in him. So, I look at that now, and like they got the Minnesota 2031 pick that that San Antonio traded for this last year so they could pick Dillingham for number 8 or number 7. And then they got San Antonio's 2027 pick. I got to tell you, look, it's a shot on goal, but I think San Antonio is going to be darn good. They kept all their players and got Fox.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a good – they got Vassell. You're high on Castle. I'm not, but they kept him. So that's like, man, that's what they got for Fox. So, that's my issue with it, is that, like, okay, maybe you can put Levine in, like, he's this good player you got back, but he should be a guy you get on the bargain contract, or you get on a bargain.
Yeah, I don't like Zach Levine. Okay, I kind of like him because he's a Pacific Northwest guy from Seattle. But other than that, I'm not a fan of Zach Levine. But on the other hand, Sacramento's going to have an evaluation period with him. They'll see what he can do. Like, I think that they have enough time to evaluate him, whether they want to re-sign him moving forward, and if they think that he's still not that old. I don't know what his age is.
29.
So he's
Fox
still
is 27. He's 29. Yeah.
So he's a viable guy moving forward for a few more years, and we'll see if they can make a push and actually improve their record from where they are. I mean, there's enough time.
All right, in March he's 30. So, I did the comparison with 2 years older, so he's basically 30. He'll be at 30 in a month. I agree, but I'll just read you his stats this year. And look, I know exactly your views on Levine. I'm not, I knew you're not bullish on Levine, and I can't, it's Keontae George. I can't excuse his defense, right? I can't excuse his defense. I can't excuse his attitude. I can't excuse any of those things. And all those are disgusting to me as a basketball fan. But let me read you his offensive stats this year. 34 minutes a game, 51.1% from the field, 44.6 from 3-point, 44.6, 79.7 from the free throw line, 4.8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 0.2 blocks, 0.9 steals, 2.9 turnovers. So 4.5 to 2.9 turnovers, 24 points a game. I mean, that's just on that's pretty good. That's, so take nothing away from the guy this year. If that's what he's going to give Sacramento the next 3 years, they got something. Do I think they're going to get that? No, of course not. I think he'll be back doing his Zach Levine stuff, pouting and not playing, etc. Maybe even the end of the season. But this year he has played well, I think.
Yeah, my issue with him, and the one that I've always had with him in terms of just the way he plays basketball, is his inability to elevate the play of his teammates. And I don't think he does that at all. I think that those numbers are about his numbers, and he doesn't help his teammates. He doesn't impact his teammates' play positively. I think a point guard needs to do that. I think De'Aaron Fox does that. And I don't see Levine doing that. He reminds me of Pooh Richardson. I've talked about this guy before. I don't know, you probably don't even remember Pooh Richardson. There's another point guard out of UCLA who's just a jump shooter. He didn't get in the paint and help his teammates better. He got drafted by the T-Wolves, and he just never amounted to anything. And Zach Levine is more athletic than Pooh Richardson, but he reminds me of Pooh Richardson. I mean, they both came out of UCLA, and I think he's the same guy. So those are my complaints with Zach Levine. That's why I don't like him.
Yeah,
but he's really athletic.
Yeah. Oh, did he win the dunk contest one year?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, his vertical and his ease of jumping, I mean, it's almost unmatched in the NBA. I mean, obviously he's getting older now, but boy, that guy's legs are unbelievably lively. It's insane.
Yeah, yeah. Just and I'm not going to defend Zach LaVine. I'm not going to disagree with you. He's had decent players around him, so you should be elevating the team. His team should have been better. There's no question
Yeah.
about that. The only thing I'm going to give as a counterpoint on that is one of the guys on our team gets that comment all the time about him, Colin Sexton. Now, Colin Sexton, he's highly efficient. He doesn't make anybody else better. Well, Colin Sexton was on Cleveland. Their team sucked. Is that a fair criticism of Colin Sexton when your team stunk? And they were trying to make him play point guard until Garland got there, and he's not a point guard. We know that. And now on the Jazz stink, right? Does he make his team better? I think he actually really tries. So, and I'm not saying that Zach should be defended, but people do throw that comment out there. And I think John Collins, people have said the same thing about John Collins. Well, sometimes it's the position you're in, right? And so I do think Zach was teams that he could have won and should have won. And do I think he's a selfish player? Absolutely. I absolutely do. I think it's everything about Zach LaVine. But let's see what happens the next 3 seasons in Sacramento, because to me, that's the only saving grace with this trade is if Zach LaVine turns into this guy for the next 3 years. Otherwise, you and I are going to look. It's not going to be the Luka trade. Like we can't do worse than that one. But we're going to look back at this trade and say, what the heck was Sacramento doing? Like, what the heck?
One thing that I think could help tremendously, and Sacramento, they're in a tough spot with personnel to do this, but actually just move Zach LaVine off the ball. Make him play 2. And honestly, I think in that role, he's a lot better for the team. I think for the team, he's a lot better off the ball.
And would you put Monk as point guard?
No. But maybe I give more of a role.
They got a rookie, right?
So yeah, they have a rookie who was like the son of another former NBA player. I forgot his name. But he's been injured. So maybe that guy, and playing a rookie point guard, big minutes, that's a really difficult situation to be in, especially when the Sacramento Kings are trying to win. They're not trying to tank like the Jazz are with Collier. So that's a tough spot. And that rookie guard they did get, I think that guy's more of a combo guard too, rather than a true point guard. So we'll see. But I honestly, I think Zach LaVine would be much better off the ball than he is as a point guard.
Yeah. Well, let's see what they do. Sacramento could also look. Their fan base struggled for how many years with no playoffs?
Oh, it was a lot.
Every team.
And that's a really good fan base. That's one of the better fan bases. That's a rabid fan base. That's the Kings are the only game in town, really, just like the Jazz are the only game in town. They got hockey now, but let's face it, it's from a professional sports standpoint. They have MLS too, but the Jazz are it, and that's the same thing as Sacramento.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel bad for them, but I will say this, is that if it's not going the right direction, like they don't make the playoffs this season, I think if I were the decision of the Sacramento Kings, you got some assets are worth something, flip them and start over. Because, honestly, the name of this game now, under the current rules, is you're bad and you get multiple shots on goal. And so you take all of your firsts, because Nets now have that, right? Nets have this plethora of picks.
Yeah.
Of like trading away they could be very good in a hurry because they just have a lot of shots on goal. Yeah, they're going to suck for 3-4 years, but then they could be really good because they hit on some guys. And so Sacramento, Sabonis has some value. Monk has some value. I don't know if Keegan Murray has value anymore, but man, they blew that without trading him sooner. But I think even like DeRozan, you can probably get a first-round pick back for DeRozan. He's got 2 years left, and he continues to play this year. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. But it'll be interesting. But we've seen some trades that just like in my mind are head scratchers over the weekend. I mean,
Yeah,
just like
yeah. It's I mean, seeing two players of this caliber moved and so little in return is really. I mean, it's. I think there needs to be a reset. I think the draft picks are becoming, with the way the salary is, salary structure now with actual penalties. I think those draft picks are becoming more valuable, and maybe the franchises are realizing that.
yeah. Yeah, but if I were to tell you before that trade, let's hypothetical. Let me tell you that before that trade, if I were to tell you that San Antonio was going to pick up De'Aaron Fox and they weren't going to lose Castle, they weren't going to lose Keldon Johnson, they weren't going to lose Chris Paul, they weren't going to lose who am I missing? I'm missing one of the guys. They lost none of them. None of them. Yeah, they gave away 4 first-round picks, but one was really 2 seconds that they gave away. And they didn't even give the best first-round picks that they had, with the possible exception, as of now, that 2031 pick from Minnesota. Like, would you have believed me if I said, yeah, this is what's going to happen? Because now you look at San Antonio and you go, man, next year, that team is to be you got to watch out for them.
Yeah.
Like suddenly that's like a real team that, they're not good as Oklahoma City, but would you be surprised that team's in the top 4 in the West next year?
Oh yeah, easily could be. Yeah. I mean, that team's stacked with assets, with roster and assets now. I mean, they're in a really good spot. Houston's in a good spot. OKC's in a good spot. The West is really difficult at the moment.
Yeah. So anyhow, it'll be let's have fun. Thursday, 3 Eastern time. Thursday's always the busiest day, so there will be trades on the trade deadline. I don't know if there'll be any trades in the next 3 days because often they happen on Thursday, but it'll be fun. And I agree with you. The Jazz are going to do something. So even if that's getting more second or being a salary dump or something, at least we'll have something to talk about that'll be interesting. And hopefully we could be saying, Jordan, we thank you for your time in Utah, which I truly mean. He's a energetic guy that seems to like Utah. That's hard to find, right?
Yeah.
So honestly, I thank Jordan for coming and saying good things about our state. So
I'm
thrilled about that.
He seems like a really good guy. I have no complaints with the person himself. I mean, the Jazz have had some guys that I don't like at all, that I just think would be better off elsewhere, just from a personal standpoint. I think the state of Utah would be better off elsewhere with these players elsewhere, but Jordan's not one of those guys. He's been a high character guy, and he obviously really does like the state. So from that standpoint, seems like a really good dude. And I'm glad that actually the Jazz have that type of guy on the roster for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, I hope he goes to a contender and he has a chance to win. I'll be rooting for him because I truly like Jordan Clarkson. I just don't want him to take minutes and watch him be dominant of the ball. That's not what I want to see for our team. But I truly like the man, and if he ends up back just like we said about Mike as a coach on the team, I have no problem with that. I would love to have Jordan, connected with our team. It's not a player, so let's watch.
All right. Well, I think we'll probably call tonight then, and we will talk to everybody after the next game, and there's a good chance before it because the trades are going to be coming. So anyway, have a good night, everybody. We will talk to everybody later.